Captain Elias Marlowe had never believed in luck, not in the usual sense. He believed in boldness, in timing, and in reading the room, or in this case, the galaxy. That belief had brought him to the edge of known space aboard the starship Valiant, a sleek ship built for speed, endurance, and human ingenuity. The mission was simple in theory: negotiate an alliance with the Cathurians, a species so feared that most humans avoided even thinking about them. But simple in theory was rarely simple in practice. The Cathurians were legends, not just for their power, but for their unpredictability. Entire human colonies had vanished without a trace when ships from other factions ventured into Cathurian space. Rumors of their ruthlessness filled spaceports across human-controlled sectors. And yet here Elias was, standing in the cold, metallic chamber of their flagship, awaiting an audience with their leader, Queen Aerolith herself. The chamber was unlike anything humans had ever seen. It was enormous, cavernous, yet elegant, with walls that shimmered like liquid glass. Strange glyphs moved across the surface, changing color and shape in a rhythm that almost felt alive. The air was thick but breathable, scented faintly with a mixture of minerals and something Elias could not identify. The lighting was dim, but the focus was unmistakably on the center of the room, where a raised platform hovered a few meters above the floor. And then she appeared. Aerolith descended slowly, almost gliding, her massive form covered in armor that seemed grown rather than manufactured. Her head was crowned with tendrils that moved subtly, sensing the space around her. Her eyes, two pools of liquid amber, locked on Elias and his crew. The room seemed to shrink around her presence, and even seasoned officers felt the weight of fear pressing in. Elias swallowed. His mind raced, calculating possibilities. Every instinct screamed caution, but caution had brought humanity nothing but stagnation in the past. Boldness, that was what worked. And boldness had always been Elias' secret weapon. He stepped forward. "Your Majesty," he said, keeping his voice steady, "I come on behalf of humanity, not just as a guest, but as a partner. We offer an alliance." Then she spoke, and her voice was like the echo of mountains, deep and resonant, filled with both curiosity and amusement. "An alliance," she said, pausing. "And what exactly do you humans offer that would interest me?" He straightened his shoulders and smiled, the kind of smile that said he was ready to gamble everything. "We offer unpredictability," he said. "We offer ingenuity. We offer boldness that even your most loyal generals could not anticipate. We offer humanity. And sometimes, Your Majesty, that is more valuable than fleets, weapons, or resources." Then, to the shock of everyone present, she laughed, a low, resonant laugh that filled the chamber and reverberated through the walls. "All right," she said, her voice now tinged with amusement. "I accept." "Accept what?" one officer dared to whisper, though no one seemed to hear. Aerolith's gaze swept over them. "Your offer, your human audacity, it amuses me and it intrigues me. You may accompany me to my world. There we will see if your species is as remarkable as you claim." As the Valiant moved through space, the crew watched the stars warp and bend in the distortions created by the Cathurians' faster-than-light drives. Elias remained at the helm, navigating not just the physical journey but the tension that hung over his ship. Humans were guests in the domain of a predator species. One wrong move, one misread signal, and the alliance could collapse before it even began. On the way, Elias studied his crew. Lieutenant Kara Singh, sharp-eyed and fearless, was already planning contingencies in her mind. Engineer Theo Vargas quietly reviewed the ship's systems, thinking of ways to impress or survive the Cathurians' inevitable tests. Even the youngest crew member, Cadet Lyra, seemed to sense the weight of what was happening, her hands gripping the railing with white-knuckled determination. Humans were adaptable, Elias thought, but the test would be whether they could be more than just survivors. Could they thrive? When the Valiant arrived, the planet below was a vision both alien and beautiful. Cities floated in the sky, supported by invisible fields of energy. Rivers of light snaked across the surface, illuminating landscapes that glowed with colors that no human eye had names for. It was a world alive with energy, a testament to a civilization both ancient and sophisticated. Aerolith's ship descended first, a massive vessel shaped like a living creature, scales glinting in the planet's strange light. Elias followed, docking with precision, knowing that any mistake would not just be a technical failure, it would be a political one. The Queen's palace was no less imposing than she herself. Towers spiraled into the sky, organic and metallic fused seamlessly, corridors that seemed to breathe with life. Humans were led through chambers filled with objects they could not identify, alien tools, artworks, and devices that hinted at knowledge far beyond human understanding. And then the real tests began. Aerolith did not threaten them with weapons. Instead, she tested their minds, their courage, and their adaptability. One challenge required solving a puzzle that manipulated gravitational fields in ways no human had conceived. Another demanded rapid improvisation when a simulated crisis threatened the life of a Cathurian envoy. Every time, Elias watched his crew rise to the occasion, thinking outside the limits of human training, using intuition, teamwork, and courage. The Queen observed silently, sometimes laughing quietly at their audacity, sometimes frowning at a misstep. But always she watched. Humans were unlike any species she had ever encountered. They were fragile in some ways, unpredictable in others, but they possessed a spark that the Cathurians valued, something raw, something bold. By the time the first cycle of tests ended, Elias realized that this alliance, fragile as it was, had the potential to change the galaxy. Humans had gambled with audacity, and for the first time in centuries, a Cathurian ruler had acknowledged their value not as subjects, not as pawns, but as partners. That night, as the crew rested in quarters far more luxurious than anything they had imagined, Elias stared out of the observation window at the glowing city below. He thought about what had happened, the Queen's laughter echoing in his mind. It was a sound that could terrify or reward, and somehow he had made it reward him. But Elias knew the real challenge was only beginning. This was not the end of the gamble, it was the start. The galaxy was vast, and threats would come from both outside and within. The humans had been accepted, yes, but acceptance was not trust, and trust could be as dangerous as betrayal. Still, Elias allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Humanity had stepped into a world where few dared to tread. They had faced the unknown, faced the fear, and had been recognized, not for their power, but for their spirit. And in that recognition, in that spark of audacity, Elias saw the future. Humans could survive anything. They could outthink, outfight, and outlast. And in the presence of an alien queen who ruled with unmatched authority, they had done something no one expected. They had made her laugh. And that, Elias thought, was the beginning of everything. The humans followed Queen Aerolith deeper into the floating city, their senses overwhelmed by the alien beauty around them. The streets glowed with light that seemed to flow like water, and buildings shifted subtly, changing shape as though alive. Everywhere they looked, the architecture seemed impossible, structures floating effortlessly, bridges that twisted in curves human minds could barely comprehend, and creatures moving alongside the citizens, seemingly symbiotic with the city itself. Captain Elias Marlowe led his crew with steady confidence, but he could not hide the awe in his eyes. Humanity had explored countless worlds, but this was beyond anything they had ever seen. Yet even as wonder filled them, the humans were keenly aware of the danger. One wrong step in this alien environment could destroy everything. Their mission, their alliance, even their lives. Aerolith's presence was constant, a towering shadow of authority and curiosity. She moved with grace, her eyes observing every reaction, every gesture, as if evaluating not just the humans' abilities but their very essence. Occasionally, she would tilt her head and emit a low chuckle, and Elias could feel the weight of her amusement or her judgment pressing against him. "You must understand," she said as they walked. "My people do not trust easily. We do not forgive weakness. Humans, you are fragile yet bold. I am curious if you can survive and even thrive in ways my own kind cannot." The walls around them shifted, revealing a room unlike any human had seen before. It was a vast chamber filled with floating platforms, streams of colored light twisting between them like rivers. Objects hovered midair, moving in complex patterns that defied normal physics. "This," Aerolith said, her voice echoing through the chamber, "is a place of learning and testing. Those who wish to prove themselves must understand it, adapt to it, and succeed." The first test was deceptively simple: retrieve a glowing crystal from the center of the chamber. But as soon as they stepped onto the platforms, the room began to shift. Gravity fluctuated, light streams pulsed unpredictably, and invisible barriers formed and vanished without warning. The humans had to think on their feet. Theo Vargas, the engineer, quickly adapted, analyzing patterns in the movements of the platforms and the energy flows. "The light streams follow a rhythm," he said. "We can use it to time our jumps." As her fingers closed around it, the chamber stabilized, and Aerolith's laughter echoed again, deep and approving. "You adapt well," she said, But understanding is not enough. You must also anticipate. You must think beyond the obvious. The humans had to save him without using any standard weapons. It was a puzzle of logic, physics, and intuition. Elias immediately assessed the situation. Standard human tools were useless, but improvisation could save them. Using a combination of magnetic grappling devices, portable energy shields, and careful timing, the crew created a path that allowed them to reach the envoy just before the structure collapsed. The simulation ended, and Aerolith's eyes gleamed with interest. You risk your lives to save another. Rare among humans, even rarer among my people. You show courage, creativity, and loyalty. They faced challenges that required navigating alien landscapes, deciphering intricate codes, and predicting patterns in advanced Cathurian technology. Each test pushed them to the limit, yet the humans continued to succeed. Aerolith watched them closely, her expressions shifting between amusement, curiosity, and rare approval. Occasionally, she would comment, "You are clever, humans." Too clever, perhaps. Her words were always accompanied by a tilt of her head or a subtle laugh, a reminder that their victories were both acknowledged and constantly scrutinized. Despite the intensity of the tests, Elias noticed a subtle shift in the Cathurian queen. Her laughter, once purely amused, began to carry a note of genuine appreciation. She seemed intrigued not just by their success, but by the way humans approached problems, boldly, unpredictably, and without fear of failure. One evening, as the humans rested in quarters designed to their comfort, Elias reflected on what they had achieved. The crew had navigated impossible challenges, adapting to alien logic and physics, all while earning the respect of a species that rarely tolerated outsiders. They were not just surviving, they were demonstrating humanity's unique strengths, courage, creativity, and the audacity to act when others hesitated. Kara Singh approached him, her expression serious. "Captain, do you think this is all a test? Or is the Queen genuinely interested in forming an alliance? And the more we succeed, the stronger our position becomes." They were placed in a simulated council where they had to negotiate peace between two warring Cathurian factions. The simulation was sophisticated, tracking body language, speech patterns, and decision-making strategies. It would punish hesitation and reward decisiveness. Elias took the lead, drawing on human experience in diplomacy and conflict resolution. He listened, analyzed, and proposed solutions that were bold but fair. The crew contributed, offering alternative strategies and supporting his decisions. Slowly, the factions in the simulation came to agreement, ending their hostilities under a framework the humans had devised. Aerolith observed silently, her amber eyes never leaving Elias. When the simulation concluded successfully, she finally spoke. "Humans, you surprise me. You lead not through fear or strength, but through ingenuity and courage. You think in ways my people rarely do. Perhaps you are worthy allies after all." Every test they had faced, every challenge they had overcome, had brought them closer to securing their place in this alien world. But Elias knew better than to assume victory was complete. Trust was earned slowly, and the galaxy was full of dangers they had yet to encounter. Days passed, and the humans continued to learn, to adapt, and to prove themselves. They navigated alien marketplaces, deciphered complex social hierarchies, and even assisted in solving logistical problems that had baffled the Cathurians for decades. Their successes did not go unnoticed. Citizens whispered about the humans who had captured the Queen's attention, and even some Cathurian officials began to treat them with cautious respect. Yet, Elias remained vigilant. The alliance was still fragile. One misstep, one error in judgment could undo everything. But he also recognized something more important. Humanity had a power that no technology or weapon could replicate. It was the power of ingenuity, courage, and the refusal to be predictable. One evening, as the humans gathered in a common area, Aerolith appeared without warning. Her presence filled the room, yet there was no threat, only observation. She studied them, her tendrils moving subtly. "You have done well," she said. "You have adapted, you have survived, and you have impressed me. But this is only the beginning. The galaxy is vast, and there are threats that will test you in ways no chamber or simulation can prepare you for. Yet I see potential, a spark that might change everything. We shall see if your actions match them." Humanity had proven itself not through brute force or overwhelming power, but through creativity, courage, and the audacity to act where others hesitated. They had earned a place at the table of a species that few dared approach. And in doing so, they had taken the first step towards something far greater than survival. Above them, the city pulsed with light, alive and aware. Somewhere Aerolith watched, her laughter echoing softly through the streets, a sound that had once been a test and was now a measure of genuine intrigue. Humanity had earned her attention, and in the galaxy, attention from a Cathurian queen was the first step toward influence, power, and perhaps even legacy. The night stretched on, filled with possibility and danger. Ilias knew the coming days would demand even more courage, more ingenuity, more humanity. But for now, as the stars shimmered above the alien world, he allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Humans had begun to carve their place among the stars, and the spark of their potential had been recognized by one of the most formidable beings in the galaxy. And that spark, Ilias knew, was only the beginning. Humanity's early successes had earned them recognition, but not universal approval. While Queen Aerolith watched them with curiosity and amusement, a darker reality stirred in the shadows of her empire. Not all Cathurians welcomed the presence of humans. Some saw them as weak intruders, others as dangerous disruptors who threatened centuries of tradition. Among these dissenters, the most dangerous were the warlords, powerful figures who commanded fleets, legions, and influence. Captain Ilias Marlowe and his crew were about to discover that surviving Cathurian tests was one thing, surviving their politics was another. It began subtly. During a routine tour of the floating city, Kara Singh noticed the glances of certain Cathurian officials. Eyes that should have been curious or respectful were instead sharp, calculating, and cold. Theo Vargas caught whispered conversations in the corridors, phrases that sounded innocuous but carried veiled threats. Even Cadet Lyra, youngest among the crew, sensed the tension, gripping the railing of the observation platforms as if the slightest misstep could trigger disaster. Ilias noticed it too. The humans were no strangers to danger, but this was different. This was a species with centuries of dominance, and now factions within that species were plotting against them. He convened the crew in a secure chamber, the hum of energy fields surrounding them. "We have friends, yes," he said, "but we also have enemies. Some Cathurians do not want us here. They see us as a threat to their authority, and they will act if given the chance. Anticipate moves before they happen, find the weak points, and stay ahead." Theo was inspecting the ship's systems when he noticed irregular energy fluctuations in the navigation controls. Someone had tampered with the FTL drive, enough to cause catastrophic failure during a jump. It was clever, deliberate, and frighteningly precise. Ilias acted quickly. "Secure all systems, Theo. Kara, scan the city for unusual activity. We don't know who is behind this yet, but we will find them. They know how we think." When a Cathurian officer attempted to access the ship's secure areas disguised as a maintenance worker, Kara spotted him immediately. A subtle diversion allowed them to trap him without confrontation. Queen Aerolith observed these events quietly. She did not intervene, but her amber eyes followed every move. Occasionally, her laughter echoed softly, a sound that no longer carried amusement alone. It carried acknowledgement. The humans were proving themselves capable, even in the dangerous political currents of her empire. But the warlords would not wait. They launched a coordinated strike against Aerolith's loyalists, sending fleets to blockade key spaceports and attacking strategic locations across the planet. The humans were thrust into the center of the conflict. Aerolith called upon Ilias personally. "You have adapted well to tests," she said. "Now you face the true challenge, not simulations, not puzzles, real enemies intent on destruction. Will you act as humans or as pawns?" It was guarded heavily, with drones and energy barriers that would have discouraged any typical human team. But the humans were anything but typical. Using a combination of stealth technology, improvised drones, and human intuition, they penetrated the defenses. They moved silently through corridors, reading patterns of guard rotations and anticipating patrols. It was nerve-wracking work, each step demanding focus and precision. Inside, they discovered the extent of the rebellion. Plans for an all-out assault on the Queen's capital, schematics of Cathurian ships, and detailed intelligence on loyalist forces lay before them. More importantly, they realized that the warlords had underestimated humans. The complexity of human problem-solving, the unpredictability of their decisions, and the speed at which they adapted were all traits the warlords had ignored, and those traits would be the humans' advantage. They returned to the capital undetected, and Theo immediately began analyzing the intelligence. "We can use this against them," he said. We know their routes, their ships, their strategies. They won't expect an attack from this angle. Ambushes were set using unpredictable patterns, ships were disguised in ways that bent light, and false intelligence was leaked to confuse the enemy. When the battle began, the humans' influence was immediately apparent. The warlords expected conventional attacks, but instead faced tactics that were unconventional, daring, and entirely human. Small teams struck key points, ships appeared where none should have been, and the Queen's forces gained momentum in ways they could not have achieved alone. Elias led a squadron in a daring assault on one of the largest warlord ships. His strategy relied on precision maneuvers, calculated risks, and exploiting the enemy's expectations. While the warlord's forces fired relentlessly, the humans navigated with speed and creativity, disabling critical systems and turning the tide of battle. Meanwhile, back on the planet, Kara and a team of specialists worked to prevent sabotage in the capital. They intercepted insurgents before they could reach the Queen's palace, using clever traps, quick thinking, and advanced human sensors. Each small victory reinforced the humans' reputation. During a lull in the fighting, Queen Aerolith appeared before Elias. Her eyes held a mixture of admiration and curiosity. "You are unlike any beings I have known," she said. "Your strategies are not just effective, they are unpredictable. Perhaps this alliance was not foolish. We do what we must to survive and to succeed, Your Majesty. And humans have a way of thriving even when the odds are against us." Even when their plans failed, the humans quickly improvised, altering tactics in real time, exploiting weaknesses the warlords had not anticipated. By the end of the first phase of the rebellion, the humans had become indispensable. The Cathurians had learned something vital. Humanity was not just resilient, it was unpredictable, audacious, and capable of thinking in ways even the most sophisticated alien minds could not anticipate. Yet, Elias remained cautious. He knew the victory was temporary. Political threats were ongoing, and the warlords would adapt. The humans had gained influence, yes, but influence brought danger as well as opportunity. In the quiet moments, Elias reflected on how far they had come. From the edge of space, where humans were considered fragile and expendable, they had entered the heart of an alien empire and made themselves essential. Every test, every mission, every calculated risk had brought them here. But the true test, the one that would determine whether humanity could shape galactic events, was yet to come. Aerolith's laughter, once a sound of amusement, now carried subtle respect. The humans had earned a place at the center of her empire, not as subjects, but as partners. Yet the Queen's warning echoed in Elias' mind. The galaxy was vast, full of threats both outside and within. And humans, for all their ingenuity, would need to remain vigilant. The night before the final coordinated attack against the warlords, Elias gathered his crew. "Tomorrow, we show them what humans can do when pushed to the edge. We are not just allies, we are a force they cannot ignore. Remember, our strength is not just in our weapons. It is in our minds, our courage, and our willingness to act when others hesitate. Let's make sure they never forget humanity." They had faced tests, sabotage, and political intrigue, and survived. But the coming confrontation would require everything they had learned, everything they had improvised, and every ounce of courage they possessed. And in the midst of it all, Queen Aerolith watched, her laughter echoing softly through the corridors of her palace, a reminder that humans had captured her attention, and that attention was both a privilege and a warning. The galaxy had taken note of humanity. And soon, it would witness the full measure of what humans could do when faced with seemingly impossible odds. The rebellion of the Cathurian warlords erupted into full-scale war. Ships filled the skies above the floating cities, their weapons painting streaks of destructive light across alien clouds. Explosions rocked the capital's outskirts, and humans and loyalist Cathurians alike braced for the largest confrontation they had yet faced. The humans, who had once been mere guests in this alien empire, were now central to the defense. Captain Elias Marlowe stood on the bridge of the Valiant, surveying the fleet through the main viewport. Hundreds of Cathurian warships loyal to the rebel warlords had emerged from hidden bases, intent on crippling the Queen's power. The human-led squadron was positioned at the forefront, ready to act with strategies the Cathurians themselves had not imagined. Elias turned to his crew. "This is it. The enemy thinks they know us. They think they can predict human behavior. Let's show them they are wrong. I've modified the energy shields to allow rapid directional shifts. We can dodge heavier fire while the Queen's fleet closes in. Timing is critical, though. One error and it's over. Their plan relied on speed, unpredictability, and exploiting patterns the rebels assumed were fixed. In other words, it relied on being human. The first phase began with deception. Small groups of human-piloted ships darted toward the enemy, appearing to engage, then suddenly disappearing into warped space, reappearing behind enemy lines. The warlords' forces fired at shadows, wasting energy, while the humans disrupted key supply ships. Each maneuver was calculated, audacious, and unexpected, throwing the enemy into confusion. Elias led a strike team to target a massive warlord flagship. The ship bristled with weapons, and its shields had never been tested against such unpredictable tactics. "Theo, now," Elias commanded. Theo triggered a series of energy pulses, creating false signals that mimicked attacks from multiple angles. The warlord responded, reallocating shields and diverting fire away from his actual vulnerabilities. Elias exploited the opening, maneuvering the Valiant through narrow gaps in the shields and firing precision shots that disabled the flagship's engines. The ship slowed, crippled, and the enemy fleet faltered as the other warlords scrambled to adjust. Back on the planet, Kara and her team faced a different kind of battle. Insurgents attempted to sabotage the energy grids powering the city's defenses. Humans, combined with loyalist Cathurians, raced against time, using portable devices, improvised traps, and their ability to think in unconventional ways to prevent widespread destruction. One by one, sabotage attempts were foiled, each success increasing the humans' reputation among the Cathurians. As the battle continued, the warlords tried to regroup, deploying specialized strike pods designed to overwhelm the city's defenses. But humans anticipated their moves. Elias coordinated with Aerolith, combining human strategy with Cathurian firepower. Ambush points were set using floating platforms, energy traps, and rapid deployment drones. When the enemy pods arrived, they were caught in a crossfire, destroyed before they could reach their targets. Throughout the conflict, Aerolith observed closely. Her massive presence on the flagship bridge was both a source of inspiration and a reminder of the stakes. Her amber eyes followed every human move, every improvisation, every audacious decision. Elias realized something remarkable. The Queen was not just tolerating humans, she was learning from them. During a pause in the battle, a council of warlords attempted to communicate directly with Aerolith, proposing a surrender under their terms. But Elias, anticipating deception, intercepted the signals, analyzing inconsistencies in their data streams. Using human intuition and logical reasoning, he recognized the trap, a simulated surrender meant to lure them into a vulnerable position. He relayed his findings to Aerolith. "Your Majesty, they are not sincere. It's a setup. We can use it against them, but we need to act now." "We shall act." Elias piloted the Valiant through the heart of the battle, coordinating attacks with human precision and Cathurian firepower. Every move was calculated, every risk measured. And yet the humans' unpredictability remained the key. They adapted faster than the warlords could respond, and one by one, enemy ships fell. On the ground, the humans continued to excel. Kara led teams to strategic points, securing vital energy nodes and communication towers. Using clever diversions and improvised technology, they prevented insurgents from sabotaging critical infrastructure. Each success strengthened the city's defenses, allowing loyalist forces to maintain the upper hand. Amid the chaos, a signal came from one of the warlord commanders. They had deployed a massive weapon, designed to annihilate entire sections of the floating city. Elias analyzed the situation. The weapon's energy output was unlike anything human weapons could withstand directly, but humans had a habit of finding solutions where none seemed possible. Using a combination of shield redirection, rapid maneuvering, and a carefully timed counterattack, the humans disabled the weapon before it could fire. The warlords, shock at the humans' ingenuity, rippled across their ranks. They realized that these beings, so small and fragile in appearance, were capable of strategies they could not predict or counter. As the sun, or what humans interpreted as the planet's sun, rose over the horizon, the final phase of the battle approached. The warlords, their fleets depleted and their morale shattered, attempted a desperate retreat. Elias and his crew led a pursuit, cutting off escape routes with precision strikes and coordinated maneuvers. By the end of the day, the rebellion had been crushed. The warlords' fleets lay scattered, their strongholds secured by loyalist forces, and the capital stood intact. Humanity had played a decisive role, not just in survival, but in shaping the outcome of the battle itself. Queen Aerolith appeared once more on the Valiant's bridge, her massive form a beacon of authority and admiration. Her tendrils shifted in subtle approval as she addressed Elias. You have done what few could even imagine. Humans, you are not just survivors, you are creators of opportunity, masters of unpredictability. Today, you have changed the balance of power in this empire. Humanity had done more than survive alien tests and political intrigue. They had altered the course of an entire civilization through audacity, creativity, and courage. Kara approached, her eyes bright with exhilaration. We actually did it, Captain. Against impossible odds, we made a difference. Humanity has proven itself, but the galaxy is vast. There will be more challenges, more battles, more situations where we have to think differently. And we will, because that is what humans do. And we can handle it. You have earned not only my respect, but the trust of this empire. The victory had not come without cost. Ships had been damaged, lives lost, and humans had faced the terrifying reality of a galaxy where the powerful and unpredictable could strike at any moment. Yet, through every trial, they had adapted, survived, and shaped the outcome in ways no one had expected. Elias looked out over the floating city as the lights shimmered, reflecting on the humans' journey from uncertain visitors to key players in an alien empire. The Queen's laughter echoed through the corridors, a sound that had once been a test and was now a measure of genuine admiration. Humanity had proven its worth, not by sheer force, but by daring to act differently, by thinking unpredictably, and by showing courage where others would hesitate. The warlords had been defeated, and the humans' influence had grown stronger than anyone could have imagined. Yet Elias knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and challenges would come from unexpected directions. But humanity had demonstrated a truth that could never be erased. Clever, courageous, and audacious beings could rise, adapt, and thrive, even among the stars. And as the humans prepared for the next phase of their journey, the Queen's laughter lingered in their minds, a reminder that they were no longer merely guests, but players capable of shaping the destiny of an empire and perhaps the galaxy itself. For humanity, the battle was won, but the war for influence, understanding, and survival in a vast, unpredictable universe had only just begun. The aftermath of the war left the Cathurian Empire shaken but intact. Loyalist forces moved quickly to secure the outer cities and fortify the capital, while the defeated warlords retreated to scattered territories. Their power diminished but not entirely gone. Humanity, once outsiders and guests, had become central to the Empire's survival and resurgence. Captain Elias Marlowe and his crew found themselves not only recognized but deeply respected, not as subordinates, but as partners in shaping a civilization. The humans had earned quarters within the central palace of Aerolith, a sprawling structure suspended above the glowing cityscape. From their observation decks, they could watch the ebb and flow of life below, the alien world alive with energy and motion. The people moved with a purpose, a rhythm that was strange yet captivating to the human mind. For Elias and his crew, it was a reminder of both the opportunity and responsibility that had been placed in their hands. Aerolith appeared before them one evening, her presence as commanding as ever. Her tendrils shifted softly as she regarded the humans. "You have done more than survive, humans," she said. "You have influenced events in ways few could imagine. You have altered the balance of power in my empire, and you have done so without coercion or fear, through ingenuity, courage, and boldness. That is who we are. We do not back down, and we do not fail easily. Perhaps your presence will change the course of this galaxy forever." Theo Vargas became a consultant for energy systems, developing methods that even the Cathurians had not considered. Kara Singh trained select Cathurian officers in tactics that combined human ingenuity with alien technology. Elias, however, focused on diplomacy and exploration. He realized that humanity's greatest strength was not just their ingenuity in battle, but their ability to bridge gaps between species, to find solutions where others saw only conflict. He negotiated agreements with outer sectors, brokered exchanges of knowledge, and ensured that humanity's influence was respected but not imposed. One day, while observing the city from the palace balcony, Cadet Lyra spoke softly. "Captain, do you think we really belong here, among beings so different from us?" And right now, we are making a difference, here among the stars with people who never expected us to matter. But perhaps more importantly, you have shown that life, even fragile and unpredictable, can have a profound impact when it chooses to act boldly. This fusion created strategies that were not only effective but innovative, leading to a period of stability and growth the Empire had not experienced in centuries. Yet challenges remained. Beyond the Empire's borders, other civilizations watched with suspicion. Some envied the humans' influence, others feared it. Elias understood that the galaxy would never be entirely safe or predictable, but he also knew that humanity had proven itself capable of meeting threats head-on. The species that had once been considered fragile had become a force to be reckoned with. During a council meeting with Aerolith and her advisors, Elias presented a plan for exploration and alliance building beyond the known sectors. "We've stabilized this empire, Your Majesty," he said. "Now, humanity can help extend that stability, build bridges, and prepare for challenges beyond what even your most loyal warlords could imagine. Together, we can ensure peace and progress, not just here, but across the galaxy. You think in ways that are unpredictable, even to those of us who are powerful beyond measure. Very well, proceed. Humanity will have the opportunity to shape not just this empire, but the stars beyond." They trained Cathurian crews alongside humans, fostering collaboration that had been unheard of before. Each day, they demonstrated that ingenuity, courage, and audacity could transcend species, language, and centuries of tradition. One evening, as the humans gathered in the palace courtyard, watching the glowing city below, Elias reflected on their journey. They had entered a world where they were outsiders, faced tests of mind and courage, survived sabotage and rebellion, and had emerged not only alive but respected. Humanity had proven that it could survive the impossible and, more importantly, thrive in it. Kara Singh spoke up, eyes fixed on the distant horizon. "We've done more than survive. We've earned a place here. And that's only the beginning. The galaxy is vast, full of dangers and opportunities alike. But humans have proven time and again that we can adapt, overcome, and even lead where others hesitate. This is our time. I have learned much from you, and I believe your species will leave a mark upon the stars that will endure for centuries." The alliance between humanity and the Cathurian Empire continued to grow. Humans were sent on diplomatic missions, scientific expeditions, and strategic operations, each time earning trust and demonstrating the value of their unique perspective. They proved that their strength lay not just in numbers or weapons, but in thinking differently, acting boldly, and refusing to be constrained by the expected. In the evenings, Elias would stand on the palace balcony with his crew, looking at the vastness of space. The stars stretched infinitely, each one a potential world, a potential challenge, a potential opportunity. Humanity had stepped into the galaxy not as followers, not as weaklings, but as a species capable of shaping destiny. Aerolith's laughter would occasionally echo across the city, a sound that had once been a test, then admiration, and now respect. The humans had earned it through audacity, adaptability, and courage, a reminder that even in a galaxy full of powerful and unpredictable beings, humanity had a place. Elias turned to his crew. "We've faced impossible odds and survived. We've changed an empire, and in doing so, we've changed ourselves. Humanity has arrived in the galaxy not as an observer, but as a force. And we will continue to grow, to explore, and to prove that we are capable of greatness. We don't give up, we don't retreat, we move forward." And as the stars stretched endlessly above the Cathurian capital, Elias allowed himself a moment of reflection. Humanity had proven its courage, ingenuity, and audacity. They had made a difference where none expected them to. They had faced the unknown and emerged not just alive, but triumphant. The galaxy would never be the same. And humanity, bold and unpredictable, would continue to write its story among the stars.